The Philadelphia Phillies have had a less than ideal start since returning from the All-Star break, dropping 2 out of 3 games to the Los Angeles Angels at home at Citizens Bank Park. On Sunday afternoon, the Phillies offense had just 6 hits, a problem that plagued them throughout the first half of the season, where they just fall into these lulls that they just really can't produce runs. They can't string together a lot of hits and do much offensively. The lineup is very talented, very good, that they shouldn't have this much trouble not getting hits, not scoring runs in scoring position, but it has been an issue all season long. And another example in that 8-2 loss on Sunday in the series finale against the Angels. As I said, dropped 2 out of 3 games. It doesn't get any easier moving forward. They start a 3-game series against the Boston Red Sox tonight at home again in Citizens Bank Park. And then they head to New York to face the Yankees. They play the White Sox after that, but then they verse the Detroit Tigers, who are the best team in Major League Baseball. So the Phillies have a lot of work cut out for them coming up here with the schedule, and they have to get back to the winning ways. They have to get back on track starting tonight against a pretty good Boston Red Sox team. Yesterday wasn't the Phillies' day. They lost 8-2. The offense had just 6 hits, and unusual to say the least, Ranger Suarez, who has been dominant all season long since he came back from that back injury where he started on the IL this season. He made his first start May 4th, which he actually had a very, very bad start that day. That was his worst start of the season. Then he's been dominant ever since, up until yesterday. He allowed 7 runs in 3 2/3 innings, his first start of 2025 on May 4th in that first game back from his back injury. And then, as I said, very dominant ever since, one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball, definitely in the National League throughout that long stretch of the season there for Ranger Suarez. But unfortunately for Ranger Suarez, yesterday just was not his day. Didn't have his best stuff. He was definitely off his game. He lasted just 4 1/3 innings against the Angels. He allowed 8 hits. He walked 4 batters, which is just way too many. He also hit a batter, and he allowed 6 earned runs, picked up that loss against the Angels in that 8-2 loss. Just a very, very poor start by Ranger Suarez. Hopefully he can bounce back and not fall back into, if you remember last year, he had that great first half of the season, and then he fell into trouble and was just very, very bad throughout the rest of the regular season. Hopefully that doesn't happen again in 2025. The Phillies need Ranger Suarez to be pitching well, especially into this playoff push, if they want to win this division and get into the playoffs with a good seed and make some noise trying to win a World Series championship. His ERA jumped from 2.15 to 2.66 after allowing those 6 earned runs yesterday in that loss. It was at 1.99 after his July 5th start against the Reds. So it is rising after allowing those runs. He's allowed now 9 earned runs in his last 2 starts. Those 6 yesterday, 3 his start prior. So hopefully, as I said, Ranger Suarez can bounce back and he doesn't have that same misfortune as he did last year where he just fell apart in the second half of the season. Otto Kemp, he has been very good for the Phillies, surprisingly. Not a very highly rated prospect. He was undrafted, all that stuff. Really great story for Otto Kemp. He came up when Bryce Harper was on the IL to replace him there. First base, could play third base, was playing a little bit of outfield and left field as well. Just very impressive Otto Kemp coming up, a young kid. First taste of Major League action. He's been very good overall for the Phillies. He's had some mistakes here and there, as you would expect for a player making his first couple starts, his first appearances at the Major League level, adjusting to that level, young kid, all that kind of stuff. He's been very good, as I said. I've said it a lot right now. But he went 2 for 4 yesterday at the plate. Very good day for the Phillies. One of the only guys that was actually doing something in that offense. As I said, they only had 6 hits in that loss to the Angels. He was 2 for 4 with a solo home run in the 6th inning. That was Otto Kemp's second career home run. It made it just 7-2 at the time, though the Angels had a big lead, so it really didn't matter too much. The Phillies ended up losing 8-2. But also, unfortunately for Otto Kemp, he did have that home run. He did have 2 hits, but he also made 2 fielding errors at third base for the Phillies yesterday. They had 2 errors overall. Just can't happen at the Major League level, especially 2 in one game by one player. Really, 2 in one game by the entire team is also pretty bad at the Major League level. You want 0 errors Didn't really hurt the Phillies necessarily, neither of those errors, but still, you can't be doing it at the major league level. As I said, he's still a young kid, he's still a rookie, he's still adjusting to the major league level, the major league talent that he's facing, but you can't be making errors even if you're hitting home runs like Otto Kemp did yesterday. Now, am I a fortune teller? Maybe I am. I think I spoke this into existence. If you remember, just a few days ago, I talked about the possibility of the Phillies signing veteran reliever David Robertson, and they did just that yesterday. It was announced that the Phillies have come to an agreement or are planning on signing D-Rob, David Robertson, for his third stint with the team. He's a 40-year-old right-handed pitcher now, veteran, been around for a long time. He hasn't pitched at the major league level, hasn't pitched at all in 2025 yet in a major league game. So, I mean, he's still throwing, he's still working out, all that kind of stuff. So, we'll see how he adjusts to live action here with the Phillies whenever he gets going. He did pitch for the Texas Rangers last year in 2024, had a pretty good year for them. He had a 3.00 ERA. He had 99 strikeouts, 34 holds, in 72 innings pitched with the Rangers last year in 2024. As I said, hasn't pitched yet for a team in 2025. We'll be doing that for the first time with the Phillies whenever he gets going here. He did his first stint with the Phillies back in 2019. He did have a 5.40 ERA. However, that was in only 7 appearances because he suffered an elbow injury, which ultimately led to Tommy John surgery for David Robertson back in 2019. So that Phillies stint was cut very short, and then he went on to some other teams. Back in 2022, he made his second stint with the Phillies. They traded for him mid-season from the Chicago Cubs in 2022, and he was pretty impressive with the Phillies that time around. He had a 2.70 ERA with 3 holds. He had 6 saves in 22 appearances back in 2022. As I said, he was acquired midseason in a trade with the Chicago Cubs. So the other half of the season, he was with them and then with the Phillies. And then, more importantly, the Phillies obviously made a deep playoff run. They made it to the World Series in 2022, and David Robertson was very good in the bullpen for them during the playoff run. During the World Series run, he had a 1.17 ERA in the playoffs. He had 2 holds, 1 save, and 11 strikeouts in 7 2/3 innings for the Phillies in the 2022 World Series run. He's also had a very good career overall. As I said, a veteran, been around for a long time. He's 40 years old right now. 2.91 career ERA for David Robertson with 196 career holds and 177 saves. So he is a late inning, high leverage type of reliever. Who knows how he's going to pitch in 2025, not having pitched yet so far. 40 years old. Might not have his best stuff anymore, but as I said, he did have a very good year with the Rangers last year in 2024 when he was with them. Is it an earth-shattering move by the Phillies? Absolutely not. Is it a move that can help them? For sure. They have one of the worst bullpens in Major League Baseball, and David Robertson has had a track record of success in the bullpen as a high-leverage late-inning reliever. He definitely can't hurt this Phillies bullpen. He can't make it any worse, so I see it as a good move by the Phillies. It shouldn't be, it's really, kind of, I'm not going to say low risk, but kind of in that category where it's not going to hurt you, but it can potentially be a very good move for your team moving forward through these last couple months of the season. That's all he's signed for, and into the playoffs. I don't think this should be the only move. I hope it's not the only move that the Phillies make. Dave Dombrowski, the president of baseball operations, and the front office make before this trade deadline. They definitely need more bullpen help. They can't rely on just David Robertson, a 40-year-old who hasn't pitched in 2025, as their only addition to the bullpen. They need another guy that can come in here, be a high-leverage late-inning reliever, get strikeouts, get outs, get all that kind of stuff, be a dominant guy for the Phillies in this bullpen. If it's just David Robertson, then that is a huge letdown for the Phillies moving forward into the second half of the season, into the playoff push, and into the playoffs. They need another guy, so hopefully this is not their only move there. And speaking of that, we are getting very close now to the July 31st trade deadline. Today is July 21st, so we are just a few days away at this point, and the Phillies made that move yesterday with David Robertson signing him for the rest of this season, but they can't be done yet. And a guy that could definitely help them, it would be a major, major move, but a move that is well worth it for the Phillies, not only this year, but for the future, is Cleveland Guardians' young right-handed pitcher, Cade Smith. He is just 26 years old. He was a rookie last year in 2024. This year, he's having another pretty solid season. He's had some mishaps here and there in the Guardians bullpen, but he has a 3.21 ERA in 2025 with 18 holds. He has 3 saves, 63 strikeouts in 42 innings so far in 2025. Obviously, he doesn't get a lot of save opportunities. He's more of a setup guy because the Guardians have one of the best closers in Major League Baseball, Emmanuel Clase, who's also been linked to the Phillies leading up to this July 31st trade deadline. I made a video about him as well a few weeks ago. You can check that out right here on the page of Phillies Daily. As I said, Cade Smith was a rookie last year for the Guardians in 2024. He had a very, very good season as a rookie. He was really one of the best relievers in Major League Baseball. He had a 1.91 ERA with 28 holds and 1 save. He also racked up 103 strikeouts in 74 appearances last year as a rookie with the Guardians in 2024. He finished 5th in American League Rookie of the Year voting. So just very good stuff out of Cade Smith. Very impressive start to his Major League career. The reason his ERA is a little higher this year in 2025 than it was in 2024 is because he had 2 bad months so far. And as a reliever, obviously you're not throwing as many innings as a starter does. So if you have a bad outing, your ERA is going to jump a little bit. We've seen that with some of the Phillies pitchers here. And we've seen this with Cade Smith with the Guardians. He had a 5.06 ERA in the month of May. And so far in the month of July, he has a 7.04 ERA. That's because, if I remember correctly, I saw that he allowed maybe like 4 earned runs in just a third of an inning, one of his outings this month in July. So that's obviously going to bump up your month ERA and your season total. He's still sitting at 3.21. He has been dominant in all the other months since, and really overall, other than just a couple, like I said, a few poor outings there, which every reliever is going to have. He usually sits mid-90s. He can reach a little higher there with his fastball and all of that. So he's pretty hard throwing, as you like in a late inning, dominant, high leverage reliever. He's still pre-arbitration eligible, just being a rookie last year, only 26 years old. So he has a lot more years of team control, a lot more years of club control, which is really nice when you're trying to trade for a guy because you're not just getting him for a few months or just a year or whatever. You have a lot of flexibility there. You have a lot of room to keep him around and be a piece for your team for the future. That also means that it would take a lot of prospects, a lot of trade capital to acquire a guy like Cade Smith, who's very young, who's had a very good start to his professional baseball career at the major league level. So the Phillies would have to trade a lot to get a guy like Cade Smith. But in my opinion, at this point, it could be very worth it for just having this dominant bullpen guy for the future, for a long time here in your bullpen. Help you try to win a championship this year in 2025 and for more years moving forward. The Guardians could be sellers as we get closer to this deadline. They are fighting for a playoff spot still. They are a few games out of an American League wildcard spot, so if they fall a little bit back or they just don't feel like that they're going to be able to catch some ground and make a playoff run, they could look to trade some guys. And a lot of teams looking for bullpen help could be looking to an Emmanuel Clase, as I mentioned, their closer, and Cade Smith. But going to take a lot to get either of those guys away from the Guardians. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Phillies Daily. I'm your host, Mike Kennelly. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Phillies content right here on Phillies Daily. Hopefully the Phillies can get back on track with a win to kick off this 3-game series against the Red Sox tonight at Citizens Bank Park. We'll see what happens. Tune in tomorrow. Hopefully we're talking about a Phillies win. Again, thank you guys for watching, and as always, go Phils.